All right, Shalom. First and foremost, I want to say call hello, Yahweh Shem Yahushai. All right, we wanted to do this live stream so we can bring in the new year according to the proper Hebrew calendar, the lunar calendar. Tonight would be the night that embarks on a new year. You know, so through the spirit and power of Yahweh Shem Yahushai, what we want to do is we want to go through some things and prove that. We want to prove that this is the new year. We're going to prove how we determine the new year and how the scriptures tie in with nature and how we can observe what time it is according to the spirit and power of Yahweh Shem Yahushai and the ancient customs that he handed down to our ancestors. Okay, real quick, let me somebody send this link out to a few people. I know brothers is waiting for someone just to make sure to send a link out for the live stream, and then we can get started from there. Okay, perfect. 1 second, y'all.
How's the audio?
Should be good. Oh yeah, got it right there.
Does it show up on
what?
The cell phone that it's on?
Yeah.
Not on mine.
Oh, I just did it right now. Watch. Hold on. God damn it. Let me see what it no more. All right, chat anything. Anybody in the chat? Okay, I see Taza Mock in the chat. All right, we're gonna get started through the spirit. If anybody missed anything, you could catch it on the flip. All right, let me pull this up real quick. All right, well, the first thing we want to do through the spirit is go into how we determine when a new year is. Everybody knows that a new year is constituted by, from the Hebrew perspective, of course, by the springtime, when the spring is, okay? So what I want to do is we want to read about the etymology first of the word spring, okay, and what it symbolizes, okay? If you can't read.
Start from each year?
Start from spring.
Spring season following winter.
All right, the season that's following winter, right, read?
The vernal season, C 1400.
Meaning around the time of 1400, that's when the word spring started to come into the English language and be utilized in terms of for this particular season. Read?
Earlier springing time, late 14th century, which replaced Lent.
Okay, if anybody grew up in Catholicism, like I grew up in Catholicism, right? So basically, in Catholicism, the 40 days before Easter is known as Lent, okay? So it symbolized when you would give things up until Easter, okay? Keep that in mind and put a pin in that fact because that's going to come into play in a second. Read?
The Old English word from spring. The notion is of the spring of the year.
Right, so it's the spring of the year. The notion or the idea behind the term spring is in reference to the spring of the year, right? Read?
When plants begin to rise.
When plants begin to rise. So the spring, how do we know when it's spring? When we start seeing the plants begin to rise, right? Read?
As in spring of the leaf.
As in the spring of the leaf.
1520s.
Yep, go ahead.
From the noun in its old sense of action. So like, in the noun, from the noun in its old sense of action or time of rising or springing.
Right, springing
into existence.
Springing into existence. So how do we know when it's springtime? When we see things begin to spring into existence, okay? Right, Ray?
It was used of sunrise, the waxing of the moon, rising tides, etc. Compare 14th century spring of Tao, sunrise, spring of Mon,
yeah.
And that's moonrise, late Old English spring,
Carbuncle.
Carbuncle.
Those are I think those are stones, right? The carbuncle or whatever. I don't even know how to say that last word. But go ahead.
Let me read that. It says Pastul.
Yeah, okay. Now get Sirach 50 and 8. So I want everybody to keep in mind what we just read. We just read that spring, and how we understand when the spring season comes in is when plants begin to spring into existence, about the springing forth of life from out of the earth. This is how we know when the spring season begins. Now give me Sirach 50 and 8 real quick.
This is the book of Sirach, chapter 50, verse 8. And as the flower of roses in the spring of the year.
As the flower of roses in the spring of the year, read.
As lilies by the rivers of water.
That's right. So we know, according to the Bible and according to this etymology we just brought out, is a perfect parallel, that the springing forth of flowers is indicative and symbolizes the beginning of the year, the springtime. Okay, finish that out.
And as the branches of the frankincense tree in the time of summer.
Okay, so in summertime, something different begins to spring. But in the springtime, we know that the flowers begin to bloom and begin to spring into existence. Okay, which brings us to our next point. Now, keep a pin in that Lent fact. We're going to revisit that in a second. But we're going to go to our next point about the springing of the flowers. So read that from each year. There's a festival that takes place in Jerusalem every year, and it is commemorating the springing of certain groups of flowers, which we're going to read about that right now. Go ahead.
It says each year the Darren Adams Festival follows the rainy season.
That's right, the Daram Adam, or the Darawam Adawam Festival. Okay, meaning what? Darawam means south. Adawam means red, the red south. All the flowers, it's a certain flower that is namely in the southern part of Israel, in the area of Judah, that's red, and it springs forth, and it turns the plains of Judah, a lot of the plains and the fields of Judah, red. Okay, so when that happens, this is when we know springtime is. Okay, because that's when the flowers begin to spring forth. Go ahead.
When the ordinary green landscape of the northern Negev is covered with a magnificent carpet of scarlet red.
Anemones. I always have a problem saying that word. Anemones. That's what it is, I think.
Anemones.
There's a C in that. Yeah, I always have a problem saying that goddamn word. But so the fact is, during this period of time, this is when we know spring is. Okay, because this is when these flowers, they begin to bloom, and this is the red flowers are not the only ones that bloom. Okay, but they're the main ones that bloom. Go ahead.
To celebrate the spectacle of Israel's national flower being in full blossom.
You see that? And we talking about the spectacle that it is to see our national flower in full bloom. This is how we know when the springtime is, when this begins to occur, right?
In full bloom or blossom, as well as Israel's agricultural achievements more generally.
Agricultural achievements are also something that's synonymous with springtime, okay? Because we knew we were an agricultural society, all right? So whenever this festival begins to come in, the Daram Adam Festival, this is when we know spring is, right?
It says more generally is the annual Daram Adam Festival.
That's right, Red.
Each weekend.
Right, each weekend. Now, let's see what the dates of each weekend is, Red.
Between January 29th.
January 29th, right, Red?
To February 21st.
2015, right? So this year, the Daram Adam Festival, meaning the time which these flowers bloom, is between January 29th and February 21st. And tonight is the night of the new moon. You understand what I'm saying? It's the night of the new moon, the first new moon since January 29th, the beginning of this festival.
Right.
So this would be what? The new year.
That's right.
This is the first new moon of spring. Okay? We have to really, a lot of guys, they go off the damn Jewish calendar, which we're going to get to in a second, and they're not really doing their due diligence to really tap into how we really used to conduct our lives and how we used to set our dates and keep our high holy days and how in tune with the earth itself we once were when we were back in our original state. A lot of guys get rid of that. You see what I'm saying? Because they're set on the convenience of being conformed to the way that Esau does things. That's why a lot of guys in Israel follow the Jewish calendar, because it's easy. It's already done. You see what I'm saying? But go ahead.
It says basically during this time period from January 29th to 21st will feature a great array family-orientated activities will be taking place in the Eshkol region.
Exactly. So it's an area in Israel where they have this huge festival to commemorate the blooming of these flowers. Now read the next one because this is further about the Durham Adum festival.
Okay. Go ahead. It says for a few brief, fleeting weeks each year, Israel, you could be forgiven.
Forgetting.
It says you could be forgiven.
Oh, forgiven for forgetting. That's a lot. Go ahead.
You could be forgiven for forgetting. This little country is mostly desert.
That's right. Go ahead.
In that very short season between
Tos Bishvat, Tu Bishvat. That's how the Yiddish is. Go ahead.
Tu Bishvat, the Jewish equivalent of Arbor Day.
Right? Read.
And Passover.
So it comes in between this Arbor Day and this Passover. This is how we know when the springtime is. You see what I'm saying? Read.
The desert does something spectacular. It blooms.
It blooms. That's when these red flowers come up. This is how we know it's spring, because it goes from a desert to blooming. That's new life springing forth. So that's when the springtime comes. And we have to go by the ways that it is in our ancient land. We're not going by the ways it is in America, because truth be told, spring is something that's relative. All 4 seasons are relative. You understand what I'm saying? Some places have shorter winters. Some places have longer winters. Some places have longer summers. It's all relative. We got to keep it according to the customs of our ancient forefathers. Reason being is we all came out of Egypt and went back into came out of Egypt and went to the wilderness and spent 40 years in the wilderness from one place during one period of time. Now that might not correspond to when that springtime is for a different geological location. You understand what I'm saying? We got to keep it how our forefathers did it. We got to do it at the same time our forefathers came out of Egypt, man. These things are very important to keep intact our ways and our customs and our culture as much as possible, and not take it and try to bend it to the ways of wherever you're at. That's thinking from a Hellenistic mindset or an Egyptianized mindset or a Romanized mindset. And that's a key problem with a lot of our people, is we are thinking from a perspective that has been skewed much by the oppressors that are over us. And we're trying to bind what we find in the scriptures and our ancient customs with that, and that cannot happen. That is a major problem. That's something that we have to stop immediately, man. Right. Okay? You got a precept?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Deuteronomy chapter 32, verse 7. Remember the days of old.
Remember. We got to remember our ancient customs. We got to remember our ancient heritage, right, Red?
Consider the years of many generations.
That's right. Consider these years, man. Consider how we used to conduct ourselves and the things that we used to do and the events that transpire, Red.
Ask thy father, and he will show thee.
Ask the Most High, and he will show thee. We have to ask the Most High to guide us, to show us these things. Okay? I never heard of the Durham Adum festival, but through the Spirit and doing the due diligence to prove that tonight was the new year, we came across this information, and we were able to bring it out through the Spirit and power of Yahweh, by Hashem Yahweh Shai, right?
Thy elders, and they will tell thee.
And they will tell thee, man, okay? Because, hey, we've been shown the blueprint on a lot of these things from men that came before us, men that will be considered elders, okay? So they, I just want to come straight with that, right? Now, read the next one, okay? And this is via, just to let y'all know, the first thing he read about dealing with the etymology of spring, that came from the etymology dictionary, okay? The second thing he read about the Ramadan festival, that came from touristisrael.com, okay? So the state recognized website for tourism in Israel. Then now he's reading something that came from, what he just read and what he's going to continue to read. It came from Haaretz.com, which Shaka almost went into a debate how Haaretz is the state newspaper, basically the New York Post for Israel, okay?
New York Times.
Yeah, the New York Times is what I mean. Yeah, kind of thought it. Go ahead.
It says, it's that period between early February and late March.
Early February. So when is the Hebrew New Year typically? Sometime in between early February and late March. It varies, okay? This particular time is happening in the middle of February, okay? But that's between the window of early February and late March. Read.
When the usually dry soil has soaked up enough rainwater to
from the winter. It soaked up all this rainwater from the winter, right?
to begin sprouting some of the most beautiful wildflowers imaginable.
So it's not just that red flower, it's multi-wildflowers, Reed.
So that while driving on Israel's back roads from a distance, it often appears as though large swaths of the countryside are covered in carpets of bright red, purple, pink, lavender, and yellow.
You see that? So it's various flowers. All the wildflowers begin to bloom, okay, magnificently. Why does this happen? It's symbolizing the springing forth of the beginning of a new year, a new beginning.
That's right.
Okay, through the spirit and power of Yahweh Hashem Yahweh Shai. Okay, now I wanted to cover that. Now that's covered. We clearly have substantiated what actually spring is and how we can tell when spring is in our ancient holy land. Now what I want to cover is this whole situation with the equinox. Many Israelites and even the Jewish, you know, the rats, the way that they keep their calendar, the Khazars, has to do with the equinox. And they think that the beginning of spring is symbolized by when the spring equinox comes in. Okay, that's what they say. But what they don't understand is what the equinox really is. Okay, the new definition or the new understanding of what the equinox is the beginning of spring. This is something that has later came in. Okay, originally and initially, the equinox never symbolizes the beginning of anything. Okay, and we're going to prove that. What I want you to do now is read that right there.
All right.
This is via the Wikipedia article on the spring season. Go ahead.
It says, in some cultures in the northern hemisphere, the astronomical March equinox, varying between 19 and 21 March, is taken to mark the first day of spring.
Many people in the northern hemisphere, okay, many white people, okay, because it's only usually cracker countries that actually take hold to this notion that the equinox symbolizes the first day of spring. Read.
In the northern solstice, around 21 June,
go ahead,
is taken as the first day of the summer.
That's right. So when that solstice comes in June, they say, hey, look, this is how we know when summer started. Read.
In other traditions, the equinox is taken as mid-spring.
So originally, the equinox was viewed as the middle of spring, not the beginning of spring. You see what I'm saying? The middle. All right. So if spring begins in early February, and then you know, the equinox comes in the middle or late March, that would perfectly line up with it being the middle of spring. You see what I'm saying? So, but the way Esau got it is he commemorates and actually worships these days. He worships the host of heaven.
Right.
So he counts when these things happen. He hollows these days and counts them as the beginning of something when they're really only the middle. You're not even truly practicing astronomy when you do these things. Now we're dealing with some demonic forces here. Okay, I got a picture, matter of fact, that I wanted to show. I could just do it in a second. Read that part that's under the word pick.
All right.
Go ahead.
The 3 months with the greatest insolation are designated summer. So the solstices and equinoxes fall in the middle of the season.
You see that the solstices and the equinoxes fall in the middle of the seasons, not in the beginning. This is via earthscience.stackexchange.com, so we can understand. These are not just we're not just using any old source to prove our points. We're, you know, using things that are cited and things that are scholastic. Okay, equinoxes and solstices fall in the middle of seasons, not in the beginning of seasons. The white man told you that they commemorate the beginning of seasons, and even certain white cultures will tell you that an equinox is the middle of the season, such as the Celtic culture. Okay, but when you understand the history of the Celtic culture, we know that a lot of Israelites were instrumental in the fundamental foundations of that Celtic culture, though later crackers came and assumed it. Okay, we understand that. All right, so we know that now we have proven that the middle of the season is commemorated by the equinox and not the beginning. We're going to further prove this now. Read that next paragraph, Bubba Shah.
It says, what people think of as summer and what they do outdoors generally seems to line up with the local weather pattern.
You see that? So what you perceive to be summer or spring or winter has to line up with your local weather pattern. Okay? Now understand something. We are to keep and commemorate feasts as our forefathers did in Jerusalem. So we have to follow and set our calendar and our dates by the way our forefathers did in Jerusalem and what the local weather patterns of Jerusalem are. So if right now in between the 29th and the 21st, wildflowers are springing up all over Israel, that's letting us know that it is spring. So this is the time at which that we are to commemorate the beginning of the year and the feasts that come with it after, such as the Passover first and foremost. You understand what I'm saying, Reed?
If I could say this too, like the brother was saying, how they try to say the spring equinox is the beginning of the year because they hallow these days. That's where you get the so-called birth of the pagan god Jesus Christ, man, from the
Tammuz.
Yeah, the Tammuz, the winter solstice.
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. Because you got that, and that's the whole thing. So they center all these dates around these, these demon days, these unholy days, off of these astronomical events like the winter solstice, like the spring. That's why
try to merge them in with Christianity.
Exactly. So you got these guys, right? And real quick, this go back to Lent, which we're gonna make, but you got these guys, you celebrating Passover on the same damn day that Esau in the church is celebrating Easter.
Right.
And that's okay. Like, that's cool with you. It doesn't even make sense. You got to analyze and rationalize these things and say, okay, well, should I be celebrating? Do these guys got the date right? You see what I'm saying? Or should I maybe give it a second look, do some further research on that? You see what I'm saying? That's just, it's just ludicrous. But going back now, when we dealt with the etymology of the word spring, it replaced the word Lent. And Lent was the time that when you're in the Catholic Church that leads up to Easter, okay? And Easter is like the what they tried to, corrupt out of the Passover, by merging it with certain pagan holidays, okay? So it's the 40 days that leads up to, you see what I'm saying, Easter, okay? So how is it that now you are starting Easter 14 days after the beginning of spring, which what you call spring because that's when the vernal equinox took place? That doesn't even make sense. So the term, when you take a look at the etymology, it debunks it in and of itself because Lent has to already be in full swing before the Easter season starts. You see what I'm saying? So that letting you know that equinox comes in the middle of spring, right? Because Lent has already started, man. So the etymology debunks that ideology. You see what I'm saying? But let's keep going. Yeah, finish this up real quick because it's gonna make a couple good points. Go ahead.
All right. It says, in my own experience, there's no need for these seasons to even be 3 months long.
That's right. There's no need because it varies whether you at geologically or geographically. You see what I'm saying? But where we are at in our diaspora geographically is important to how we set up the calendar and keep the feast. We're to keep them as our forefathers did in Jerusalem. That's a true rehearsal of the righteous acts, right?
Yeah, if I can say this too, if you keep them according to the vernal equinox, both equinoxes and both solstices and so on, then your whole calendar will be off, man. Yeah, your whole calendar is off, and your calendar is in perfect synthesis and lining up perfectly with Esau. Right. You feel me? Shouldn't you question that, my man? But go ahead. But it says, when I lived in Calgary, summer was July and August.
Right. Summer's only 2 months in Calgary, Alberta, Canada, Rick.
And was December to March.
And winter was December to March. Yeah. So winter is a 4-month process and summer is a 2-month process. So a perfect fixed 3 months is really, it's not even reasonable to believe, man. Like, well, where we from up in Washington, it's like, okay, fall, you get fall like September, October. Then once November comes, it's winter already. Mess around and start snowing by the time, so-called Thanksgiving comes around. It's already snowing. So that ain't fall no more. This is winter. But let Esau tell it winter doesn't even start until December 25th. You see what I'm saying? According to the equinoxes and the solstices and all that crap. So you can't put too much faith and rely on that. We got to do research and understand that geographically things vary, but we got to understand that our calendar is being made as our ancient forefathers did in our original homeland. So we got to go off that, right? But read that last part right there.
All right. And hold Daniel 7:25.
Yeah.
It says, from an astronomical perspective, the solstices are midsummer and midwinter.
Right? From an astronomical perspective. So when you take a look at the astronomical or the astronomy or the study of the stars and the quasars and all that, right? We understand that this is the middle of the season. This is midsummer. This is midwinter. This is mid-spring. This is mid-fall, right?
Yeah, because the first blossom over in Israel is always before the so-called vernal equinox.
That's right, way before.
Right. So it says, and the equinoxes are the middle of autumn and the middle of spring.
The middle, okay, again, this is via earthscience.stackexchange.com, all right? So you can understand. These are not just make-believe posts that somebody put out there. We're dealing with things that have a level of credibility to them, okay? Right. You see what I'm saying? But give me that Daniel 7:25. But now Esau tells you that these equinoxes and these solstices symbolize the beginning of these seasons when they don't, okay? But this is the trick the devil played on you, and a lot of guys that are Hebrew Israelites are falling for this trick. Go ahead.
This is the book of Daniel, chapter 7, verse 25. And he shall speak great words against the Most High.
That's right. That's what Esau does. He blasphemes the Most High God. In everything he does, he goes out of his way to do everything that's against Yahweh B'Ashem Yahweh Shai.
And shall wear out the saints of the Most High.
He wore us out, man. He put us in slavery. He's oppressing us to this very day, read.
And think to change the times and laws.
Right. He shall think to change the times and laws. Now you got a guy. I had a couple guys come at me and try to tell me what it says. Look, it said he will think to change it. That didn't mean he changed it. But wait a minute. Did he change the laws? Did he not legalize homosexuality? Did he not legalize bestiality? You see what I'm saying? Did he not legalize usury? You understand what I'm saying? All these different demonic things that this damn devil does. He clearly changed the laws. Oh, but he shall think to change. No. He changed the laws. He thought it and he did it, just like he changed the times. Now he tells you that an equinox is symbolic and indicative of the beginning of a season, when according to ancient customs, pre-Roman customs, is symbolic of the middle of the season. Even the Babylonians, who initially even brought in the worshiping of the spring equinox, looked at it as the middle of the season, but later the Romans, who adapted those pagan customs, those demonic customs, commemorated it as the beginning. Why? Because the white man doesn't have true understanding of nature itself, as we do, as people of color do in general. Okay, so he thought to change the times and he did. He told you that the middle of the season was the beginning of it. Okay, he threw you all off course because he's the damn devil. Read.
And they shall be given into his hand until a time and times.
The power to do all these things, Salah, the power to do all these things was given to his hand. As it tells us in Job 9:24, the earth was given into the hand of the wicked. So the devil has his dominion right now. Now, while he's taking his dominion, he's going to have the power to change these laws, legalize wickedness, okay, change times, change the equinox again from the middle of a season to the beginning, all of these things, and it throws us off. So what we got to do is deprogram ourselves as much as possible from this devil's system and try to do the research we can to get as close as we can back to our ancient customs through the spirit and power of Yahweh B'Ashem Yahweh Shai. You got a precept? Yeah. Go ahead.
Zephaniah chapter 1, verse 5. And them that worship the host of heaven upon the housetops.
Right, to worship the host of heaven. All right, the damn Cushites did it, and many other ancient civilizations did it. The Egyptians did it, and now the white man took a page out of their book, and he do the same thing. Read.
It says, and them that worship and swear by the Lord and swear by Malcolm.
All right, by Malcolm. And when you deal with Malcolm, what that word means is dealing with sun worship, okay? So this is what we see going on. He's calling that the first day of the season or the first day of the year because he worships the sun. And that's the day where the sun is a perfect even 12 hours. You see what I'm saying? So that's the point of that. All right, we're dealing with astrology. We're basically worshiping of the astronomical bodies, the heavenly and celestial bodies. Okay, and what that is idolatry. So you are a Hebrew Israelite in the truth, but you're following after these same ways. Okay, and the whole, Friday to Saturday sundown stuff and keeping of a calendar like this all comes from the Sanhedrin, and the Sanhedrin being oppressed by the Catholic infrastructure to conform as much as possible to their ways. You see what I'm saying? So that's really where it comes from, is where it stems from, which we spoke about, in previous videos and lessons through the Spirit. So y'all can check those out for more edification on that. But I think that was good. And again, it's even certain controversy over if tonight is the Sabbath or when is the Sabbath. What we have to look at real quick. Let me pull this up real quick before we get into these scriptures, so I can prove it. When the Sabbath is. Let me share my screen briefly. Okay, so y'all see this. All right, now look. This is going to let us know, right? It tells us when the new moons come in, right? Today, right now, is Tuesday, February 17th at 7:51. Okay, we understand that in our culture, the day starts when the sun goes down and the moon comes up, okay, at sundown. All right, so this is one day. Until tomorrow night when the sun goes down is another day. Now, look, it tells us right here that the new moon comes in on February 18th, right, which is tomorrow, at 3:47 p.m. Okay, you know what that means? That means according to our customs, it's still today. All right, today doesn't end until the sun goes down tomorrow. All right, so if the new moon comes in at 3:47 p.m. on February 18th, then the Sabbath starts tonight at sundown. All right, you see?
Sundown to sundown.
Sundown to sundown. We have to disconnect from the ways of Esau, and we got to stop letting that influence us. Because what that does is it disconnects us from our ancient culture and heritage. Okay? And that's not profitable, man. All right? We got to, and that's the thing. And Lord willing, soon, you know, through the Spirit, we're going to go into the concept of being a Gentile, a proselyte, and a Jew. Okay? And how it goes from us changing our mentality and coming into our nationality through the Spirit and power of Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai as much as humanly possible. You see what I'm saying? We understand that there's still these influences and we still here in this captivity. So there's, you know, certain limitations to what we can do, but all the things that we have control over and that we can come out of from Esau's ideology and ways, we need to do it if it's within our power. Okay. And creating this calendar as much to mirror as how we did it in the ancient days as best as possible is one of the ways in which that we could do that through the Spirit. Okay. So that stuff is important to understand. All right.
Precept.
Go ahead.
This is Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 7, verse 17 through 19.
Mm-hmm.
For he have given me certain knowledge of the things that are, namely to know the world, namely to know how the world was made.
You see that? So he was given the knowledge to understand how the world was made. Right? We got to tap into that knowledge, man, because when we get into these scriptures, we can start to find these things through the Spirit, right?
And the operation of the elements, the beginning, ending, and the midst of times, the alterations of the turning of the sun.
The alterations of the turning of the sun. So all this understanding was given to certain of our ancestors. Okay, everybody didn't have full understanding, but those that was in power and that was in righteousness and did right by the Most High, they had that information and knowledge.
Hey, in the agricultural plant life, along with the signs of heaven, namely the moon, it was showing us the seasons and times.
That's right.
Go ahead.
And the change of seasons. Verse 19. The circuits of years.
The circuits of years. So how to make a calendar? He understood this from the Most High through the Spirit. The circuits of years. Okay, how the things, you know, the stars, how everything is moving. Right, Reed?
And the positions of stars.
And the positions of stars. So we got to understand them things too. How to determine the heavenly host. We had in the ancient times, we had those understandings. I'm not telling anybody to get off into astrology.
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah, any of that. Yeah, go ahead.
To understand them without worshiping them.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah. We deal with the science of astronomy. Okay, that's not astrology. That's astronomy. These are different things here. These are different concepts. So we have to deal with the sciences that our forefathers understood, that the Most High gave us understanding through and enlighten us through the Spirit, but not get off into the left-hand side of the things that deal with idolatry and witchcraft and necromancy and all that wild shit, man. Okay? That's it on that? Okay, give me Leviticus 23:5. Okay, because now we got to go into the Passover, right? I want to go into the Passover and understand that. If you have another precept, go ahead.
Real quick, Jeremiah 10:2. Thus saith the Lord, learn not the way of the heathen, and be not dismayed at the signs of heaven.
That's right. Be not dismayed. The Lord put these things here so we can have understanding of things. We're not supposed to be dismayed or worship them or put too much faith and hope into them, but we're supposed to take a look at them to understand how the Most High created them basically as a clock in the sky, that we will always be able to determine the date and time, right?
For the heathen are dismayed at them.
That's right. The heathen are dismayed. The heathen worship the host of heaven. The Egyptians deified the sun. The Babylonians deified the sun. Okay? And there were low-level, baser beings in comparison to us. We had the great knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. through the spirit and power of Yahweh Hashem Yahushua. Okay? So we got to understand these things. Give me that Leviticus 23:5, because now we're going to get into the Passover, okay, which is a couple weeks from now, all right, which will come in on the date of the Passover is the night of March the 2nd. The date of the Feast of Unleavened Bread is the following night, the night of March the 3rd, okay, which we're going to prove through the Spirit right now. Read. You got a blue letter? Pull it up in the blue letter, because I'm going to need you to go into the Hebrew. So pull it up into the blue letter. We got to understand all of these things, man. It's very important and imperative that we do, so we come back to our customs, man. We try to live as righteously as we can in this captivity, and Lord willing, it'll be, and do our due diligence, and it'll be enough, to get us sealed, man. Lord willing. Okay. Go ahead.
Yeah, a lot of guys be using real quick. A lot of guys be using that rehearsing the righteous act scripture to
get away with slacking.
To get away with slacking, man, and not being diligent.
Yeah.
Well, go ahead.
Yeah, there's some brothers that made a video recently. Being diligent is a lifestyle, man. Okay, and that was on point with that. It's a lifestyle. But go ahead.
This is the book of Leviticus, chapter 23, verse 5. In the 14th day of the first month at even is the Lord's Passover.
So the 14th day of the first month, this is the first day of the first month. So 14 days from now is the Lord's Passover. Now we have to understand there's a common misconception about when the Lord's Passover is and when the Feast of Unleavened Bread is. They go together and they run concurrently, but they are two separate things. Right. This is what we got to understand. Let's see what the Passover is. Go hit the Hebrew on the word Passover. Okay, read what it means. Read the Strong's number and everything.
Strong's H6453. Fasas.
Pasach.
A pretermission, that is exemption, used only technically of the Jewish Passover.
So that's all it pulls up. You can't pull up more on that. Yeah, there we go. This one. Hold on. So is this the blue letter? Hold on. Yeah. See, there's a more in-depth definition I'm looking for. Hold on, real quick. I'm gonna pull it up real quick. The Strong shows a little more deep. And that's a downloadable one you got?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's probably why they don't have the whole Strong number in there.
What is it?
Deuteronomy 23:5. And then Pesach right there. No, Leviticus 23:5. So like, yeah, I said good one.
All right.
Oh yeah, bring it up right now.
All right. 23:5.
Mm-hmm.
Let me get the
get the Strong's number. Hold on, let me see. Yeah, get it real quick.
All right. This is the Strong's for Passover. It's H6453. Pesach. Passover, sacrifice of Passover, animal victim of Passover.
Right. So it's symbolizing the sacrifice and the animal victim of the Passover. Okay, so you actually sacrifice, kill, and eat the lamb the day before the Feast of Unleavened Bread on the 14th day.
Yeah, it says the festival of
right.
Passover. The
festival. So the Passover takes place on the 14th day, not the 15th day. The 15th day is when the Sabbath is. The day before the Sabbath is when the Passover is. Okay,
right.
Go ahead.
Right.
Finish that up, whatever.
That's it on that.
Okay, give me Exodus 12. Go to Exodus 12. I'm going to prove to you through the Spirit. We're going to prove that the Passover and the Feast of Unleavened Bread are two separate things, and we're going to show you why. Okay, again, the Sabbath comes in on the 15th of the month. The Sabbaths are the 1st, the 15th, the 1st, the 8th, the 15th, and the 22nd of the month. We know these are Sabbaths. These are days of holy convocation where no servile work can be done. Okay, but there's something that we have to do on the day of the night of the Passover during the Passover festival that we are not supposed to do on on a Sabbath. Okay, so go ahead, read 12, Exodus 12, read 1 to 10.
Exodus chapter 12, verse 1. And the Lord spoke unto Moses and Aaron in the land of Egypt, saying, this month shall be unto you the beginning of months.
Right, that spring month, read.
It shall be the first month of the year to you. Speak ye unto all the congregation of Israel, saying, in the 10th day of this month,
in the 10th day, read,
they shall take to them every man a lamb.
This is when they went and collect the lambs on the 10th day, read.
According to the house of their fathers, a lamb for an house. Verse 4. And if the household be too little for the lamb, let him and his neighbor next unto his house take it according to the number of the souls. Every man according to his eating shall make your account for the lamb. Your lamb shall be without blemish, a male of the first year. Ye shall take it out from the sheep or from the goats, and ye shall keep it up until the 14th day of the same month.
Okay, until the 14th day of the same month. So the night before the Sabbath, the 14th day of the same month. Read.
And the whole assembly of the congregation of Israel shall kill it.
So this is what we do on the 14th day. When the evening comes, when the day begins, right, on the 14th, you kill it, right? And then what do we do? Read.
Verse 7. And they shall take of the blood and strike it upon the two side posts and on the upper door posts of the houses, wherein they shall eat it.
Read.
Next verse. And they shall eat the flesh in the night.
And we shall eat the flesh in the night, right? During the nighttime. Read.
Roast with fire.
We got to roast it with fire in the nighttime. Now, let me ask you something. On the Sabbath, we supposed to be kindling a fire? No. Okay? This is how we know it's not on the 15th. The festival of the Passover and the killing and the eating and the cooking of the lamb is the day before the Sabbath. We cook and roast it with fire, right? The next day, which is the Sabbath, begins the Feast of Unleavened Bread. Read.
Roast with fire and unleavened bread.
That's right. Go ahead.
And
now we eat unleavened bread on the Passover, okay, but that's not the Feast of Unleavened Bread. The Feast of Unleavened Bread is the next day. Read.
And with bitter herbs they shall eat it.
That's right. And that's all symbolic, you know. But go ahead.
Eat not of it raw.
Eat not of it raw. We can't eat it raw, but it said you kill it in the evening. So if we killing the animal in the evening, how is we cooking it in the daytime? We not. We cooking it in the evening. How are you cooking on the Sabbath? You ain't supposed to do that. So what does this let us know? It's the day before the Sabbath, okay? So the Passover is going to come in on the night of March the 2nd. Then the Feast of Unleavened Bread begins on the 3rd. So I want everybody to make sure we make note of that, because there was some confusion dealing with the Feast of Unleavened Bread. You know, on the calendar, you look, on our calendar, even the Feast of Unleavened Bread, the 3rd, or it says Passover, the 3rd to the 10th. Really, that's the Feast of Unleavened Bread, and the Passover begins the night of the night of March the 2nd. Go ahead.
Nor sodden at all with water, but roast with fire.
Roast with fire. We got to roast with fire on that night. How can we do that if it's the Sabbath? Again, because it's not the Sabbath. Okay, read.
His head with his legs and with the pertinence thereof.
What verse you at? That was 10?
That is 9.
Okay, go ahead.
Verse 10. And ye shall let nothing of it remain until the morning.
Until the morning. None of it shall remain. Right, read.
And that which remaineth of it until the morning, ye shall burn with fire.
That's right. So if whatever you don't eat got to get burnt with fire. So not only do you got to cook it, then you got to burn the rest of it with fire. How are you doing this on the Sabbath? It's not the Sabbath. It's the 14th day. Then on the 15th day, it's the Sabbath. Let's prove that. Let's go back to Leviticus 23 and read 6 to 8. And let's prove when the Sabbath comes in. What day is the Sabbath? And show the separation. Now they go concurrently, the Passover and the Feast of Unleavened Bread, but they're two different things. Can you eat unleavened bread on the Passover? All right. But these are two different things. Go ahead.
Book of Leviticus, chapter 23, verse 6.
Read 6 to 8. Read.
And on the 15th day of the same month is the Feast of Unleavened Bread.
Right. On the 15th day of the same month. So we read in verse 5 about the Passover that comes in on the 14th day. And on the 15th day begins the Feast of Unleavened Bread. Read.
7 days ye must eat unleavened bread. In the first day ye shall have an holy convocation.
What does that mean? It's a Sabbath, the holy convocation. That's the night of March the 3rd. Read.
Ye shall do no servile work therein.
Because it's the Sabbath. You don't do servile work on the Sabbath, right? You don't, the Sabbath is a holy convocation. And the Sabbaths come in what? the 1st, the 8th, the 15th, and the 22nd. Read.
But ye shall offer an offering made by the fire unto the Lord 7 days.
No, let's not. Oh, wait a minute. You said you ain't supposed to cook on the Sabbath, but it's talking about an offering made by fire. That's what the Aaronic priests, that's their office to execute. Only they could kindle a fire on the Sabbath. And the reason for that is so they could take the sacrifices there. And we just read in Exodus 12 how every single person in all of their houses was killing the Passover. Okay? In each individual house. This isn't the Aaronic priests were only doing it. It was all the people of Israel was commanded to do that. Okay, that lets us know it's not the Sabbath. And the language that we're reading here in Leviticus 23 in regard to the 15th and the 22nd, which is that 7-day period for the Feast of Unleavened Bread, is clearly letting us know that these are the Sabbaths. Read.
And the 7th day is an holy convocation.
So the 1st and the 7th, the 15th of the month and the 22nd of the month are the holy convocations or the Sabbaths commemorating the Feast of Unleavened Bread that happened immediately after the Passover. Read.
Ye shall do no servile work therein.
Yeah, that's right. We ain't supposed to do no servile work because it is a Sabbath, right? Let's go to Psalms 104. You got a precept?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
This is Exodus chapter 16, verse 5. And it shall come to pass that on the 6th day they shall prepare that which they bring in, and there shall be twice as much as they gather daily. Twice as much because they're not supposed to cook on the Sabbath.
You see that? So they got to get enough, an abundance the Most High was giving us, so where we could have enough for the day that we weren't supposed to be out there gathering and cooking and things like that. Right. You see what I'm saying? So we got to pay attention to these things, all right? This is part of us really coming fully back into the mindset of our ancient ancestors. Okay, you had another precept?
Verse 23. And he said unto them, this is that which the Lord hath said. Tomorrow is the rest of the holy Sabbath unto the Lord.
That's right.
Bake that which you will bake today, and see that you will see, and that which remaineth over lay up for you to be kept until the morning.
You see that? So bake before the Sabbath comes in. You see what I'm saying? That's what we're supposed to do. So how are we killing and baking all these? Because that too, because going back to the sacrifices and the things by fire, those are the sacrifices. That wasn't just cooking for your own pleasure, for your own dinner. You see what I'm saying? So we have to take all these things into consideration. The 14th is not the day of the Sabbath. It's the day of the Passover. You see, it's the most serious day of the year. And then it goes into the Sabbath, into the Feast of Unleavened Bread. It's not just a 7-day process. It's really an 8-day process, okay? And this year, according to the calendar we living in today, it'll begin the night of March the 2nd, okay? And it'll end, I'll say, because the 10th, I believe the night of the 11th is when really you could eat unleavened bread again, okay? Because that's the Wednesday night, and that's when that last Sabbath, the 7th day of the Feast of Unleavened Bread, ends the night of the 11th of March, okay? Let's go to Psalms 104 and 19.
This book of Psalms 104, verse 19. He appointed the moon for seasons.
The moon is there for seasons. You see what I'm saying? Read.
The sun knoweth his going down.
That's right. So the moon is there for seasons, okay? So when we see all these like we were going into the flowers blooming and things of that nature, and then we look for the moon, okay? And when that new moon comes in, when you see the seasons begin to change evidently around you, or in this case in Israel, this is when we know the new season is, okay? The springtime is. Read. That was it on that?
That was it. You want to keep going?
Oh, no, that's all I needed on that. Now what I want to do, you guys have anything else you want to go into? Okay, yeah, okay. Now what I want to do real quick is, if anybody got any questions, go ahead and ask these questions. Go ahead and ask these questions now. And if not, we're going to wrap it up. So you have any questions, go ahead and ask these questions now. Okay, I'm looking at the live chat.
On the Sicarii, man?
Yeah, on Sicarii, sit down. You want to see it? Here, I'm going to send you a link. People are having problems seeing it on their phone. If you want to see your subscriptions, you'll probably see it, but I'll send you that. Any questions, though, we're going to go into it. you know, another year here in hell. But you know, we through the spirit and power of Yahweh Hashem Yahushua, of course, you know, we trudging through it, and you know, we trying to you know, feed brothers and, you know, and growing this thing, and Lord willing, the Lord will hurry up and get us the hell up out of here, man. You know, that's the plan. Keep trudging until we get delivered through the spirit, you know, Lord willing. Yeah, but any questions? This phone might be kind of slow. Let me pull it up real quick on here and see. Yeah, okay. I'm not really seeing no questions. If that's it, then we could wrap it up. But yeah, so again, for clarification, tonight is the Sabbath, okay, and it's the commemoration of the new year. All right, and then the night of March the 2nd is the Passover, and the night of March the 3rd begins the Feast of Unleavened Bread, which will end the night of the 11th, I believe. But yeah, any questions, you know, just hit us up. Lord willing, brothers got edified on how we know it's the new year, and you know how to deal with the Sabbaths and the new moons and things like that. These are things we got to understand. You know, but with that, hold on, oh, wait. Okay, yeah. Oh, the brother said if there's no place to get kosher lamb, what should be done? I mean, it depends. It depends on it depends on you. You can go to the store, you can just cop some lamb. If you want, you see what I'm saying? You could go to a farm and get a whole lamb and kill the whole thing. Really, that's what we're supposed to do. Again, we're rehearsing the righteous acts. Everything. We don't expect everybody to do all these things, but whatever makes sense to you and whatever you have the means to do, do it. If you can't find a lamb nowhere that's quote unquote kosher, or you can't go get a whole lamb and, you know, slaughter that bad boy, I would say just go to the store and cop some lamb. Just make sure it's not any veal, okay? Veal is going off according to the scriptures, okay? The law tells us not to eat a kid in his mother's milk, okay? What that means is you don't eat veal. You don't eat a baby lamb, okay? That's why the scriptures say he had to be a male of 1 year, okay? So we gotta hopefully brothers got clarification, edification on that through the spirit. With that, again, I want to say call Allah Yahweh Hashem Yahushai, okay, and we're gonna say Shalom.
Shalom.